Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, July 8th. We're on the Americas account. Let's re-roll, I guess, the Overload cards, and then just leaves us with... Really, we only need to get two things done, so if I win Paladin Priest and then Paladin Priest, while playing ranked, we have nice overlap, we can get up in ranked. We could get 2 out of 5 victories pretty easily, which is good because we probably don't have a lot of news still, and we have the Tavern Brawls now balanced in a way that when we get to the Asian account, we'll be doing the Asian account's Tavern Brawl, so we don't really have too much to do in the Americas account. We just need to play Paladin. Click that, and we can practically just immediately jump into talking about news. I guess we could do a little bit of catch up. There's not a lot to be said. I mostly took the weekend off. I finished Zombie U. I kind of finished it twice in the sense that I died right in the final section. It had told me there is no turning back, this is the end of the game, but it did not say anything about if you died, the main gameplay mechanic of Zombie would be invalidated and there would be practically no real way to finish the game at all. So I died. I was holding a zombie vaccine, which is only a slight spoiler, frankly, and the game is so terrible it's not worth playing anyway, so there's no point in trying not to spoil it. The short of this is don't play Zombie. It's terrible, it's buggy, it's a mess, and it's not that fun of a game. The concept could have been something, certainly, but it was done very poorly. So yeah, I died holding a zombie cure, and because I was in the last section, they locked all of the doors that you'd spent the entirety of the game up until that point unlocking. So there's no longer any shortcuts that will work, no longer any fast travel that works, and on top of that, there's a bug that if you die, the next character won't even have the ability to hack open a gate to get to a shortcut anyways, and I think it almost feels like they intentionally did that just to imply that you're supposed to take the long way, but that still doesn't really make sense in most players' mind. Like, up until this point, had you been dying quite a bit, which there's not great reasons why you would die, except for there's one church section that is also awful, where you die over and over again because you're given what feels like 15 shots to kill 30 zombies, and no zombies. And there's like no way you're gonna kill these zombies with one shot. So you end up having to shoot a lot of explosive barrels and objects like that.
Access denied.
So, had you been dying in Zombie the whole time, you would have always started off in the safe house, which is right next to a fast travel location, and you would have fast traveled to where your body was, or at least relatively close to where your body was, and then you would have recovered all of your items. What I did is I couldn't scan the gate to fast travel anywhere. I got to one area because there was 2 long ways to get to Buckingham Palace, where the vaccine had been dropped by my corpse, and so I take one path, and that path is locked. There's a gate that is barred from the other side. There's no way I can get to that, get to my destination. So at that point, I'm like, okay, this is just a rage quit. Let's just let the zombies kill this new character and see if maybe the game will glitch out and put the zombie vaccine in the backpack of the new character instead of the old character, so that the new replacement, the third character in the line, would be able to actually get that vaccine where I died, which was an accessible place. And that kind of worked in the sense that it gave me a new character that didn't let me be able to scan the gate so I could get to the shortcuts. I found out after the fact that if you just exit the game and reload the game, you can scan the gate. It's just a glitch amongst many other glitches in Zombie. So then I spend another like 45 minutes going the other direction, which is, I guess, the long way around, for lack of a better descriptor. So I spend another 40 minutes, and it's really quiet at that point. I'm not saying anything about the game. There's not a lot to say. I'd kind of already wrapped up and rage quit as the game had crashed as soon as I died the first time and lost the zombie vaccine. But by the time I was at the third character, I got the third character back to where the corpse run of the second character was, and it because of that erased all the guns and all the good equipment that I had in the first character. So I lost all those guns, which sucks, but it doesn't really matter in the long run, because there's no new game plus, and there's no reason to play the game after you beat it at all, which seems crazy. Certainly it seems really crazy that you could physically delete the backpack or the bug out bag, as they called it, of a character by simply playing as another character and then having that second character die and then collecting the backpack of that secondary character. The game isn't so buggy that it deleted the zombie vaccine, though, so where the original character's bug out bag would have been, there was simply an item that was the zombie vaccine. So after spending what felt like an hour and 20 minutes extra taking the long way around to get the zombie vaccine, it became somewhat obvious that they had scheduled this. They had taken the entirety of the game and locked down so many doors and spawned in new zombies in places that we've already been and cleared out as far as whether there were zombies there, to make this kind of final gauntlet where you're trying to does this always do the enemy hero? Yes, it does. So he can't kill this guy without losing, not unless he can play a secret or heal himself. Well, he found a way. He found a way. I don't think that's gonna save him though. So you're going through this gauntlet, running through the very small amount of hallways and level design that exists here. The levels are incredibly tiny, even for a 2012 game on the Wii U launch title. It was clearly an unfinished product, made by some kind of Australian company that I've never heard of before. I don't know how I just lost there. There was no way I should have been able to lose. That was crazy. Yeah, so you're going through this gauntlet. It takes you back to the safe house at one point. You take whatever weapons you want from the safe house, and you're told that this is it. You're going to get your helicopter evacuation. So then you're running out of the safe house area, and you go through a door, and just like that, no cutscene, nothing, it goes to credits. So they're just leaving you, it feels like, on this cliffhanger. Did you escape through that door and that's all you needed to do? Or did the game... I don't think I died at that point. In fact, I'm almost 100% certain I didn't die at that point, because later on there's actually more gameplay, but it doesn't feel like it is. It just snaps to black and shows a cutscene that wraps up the character who's been kind of helping you, Prepper's story, and shows cutscenes of him, and kind of just shows him moving on to the next survivor, which is kind of what he's been doing the whole time. Is every time you died, Prepper would find a new survivor and you would play as that new survivor, which is a slightly interesting concept, but the way it's implemented is just terrible. And that's like the only animated cutscene you get to see of Prepper, and frankly it's like it's only the third or fourth animated cutscene in the entire game. So you go through these incredibly long credits. Like, it was at least 35 minutes of double-spaced, large text, single-column credits of Ubisoft. Everybody was credited at Ubisoft, including the CEO of Ubisoft. It's just a ton of credits, scrolling very slowly. And you go through all those credits, and then you're thrown at the end of those credits back into the game, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I think possibly what they did is they cheated a little bit and cut out a section of gameplay, because if I recall correctly, I went through a door that I believe would have led me in a completely different area, or at least through some sewer tunnels and some elements that were not visible and shown
Access denied.
in this final part, because you're doing this section which you had already kind of done and it hadn't succeeded, where you were doing kind of a gauntlet run. And it didn't even occur to me until a couple days later that the idea that I think they were going for was you were supposed to have been so much more powerful here at the end of the game that it would have been an easy breeze to run through this gauntlet, whereas when you originally played through that section, you struggled. Now, my experience when originally going through it is I was not struggling at all, and then from around the corner came a zombie that exploded in my face and killed me instantly. And that seems to have been the way they've designed the entirety of the game, is that there are these zombies that will just run towards you and explode, killing you instantly, trolling you, or they'll put mines in a few places. They don't even use mines that often. It is mostly explosive zombies that they're using just to be a pain in the butt.
Converting stored energy.
So
The battle.
So yeah, you're running through this secondary gauntlet after having mostly been running through a gauntlet up until this point to get to where the helicopter is, and then there's this circle place where there are zombies on this circular platform, and that is where the game's map and indicators telling me to go, and I'm like, okay. So it feels like I'm supposed to die here because the zombies are just kind of wandering around, and I've been running around the zombies, not killing them because I'm tired at this point and don't care. I imagine there probably would have been a different ending if I had died, or maybe not. There had been in one section previously, the section where you have very little bullets, there was kind of a checkpoint where they just consistently would have the have the game go over and over again and reload with a new character. So it could be that the game would have just, had I died, reloaded me at that final gauntlet part. But I just ran through most of the zombies and that was fine. And then I got to the circle thing and I thought, oh well, this doesn't seem like this is gonna work because there's nowhere else to go and it's telling me just to be here. So either it wants me to die or it wants me to kill all these zombies. Eventually I just killed all the zombies and it turned out that's what they wanted from me, and it showed a cutscene where I escaped with nothing really else to be said or done around that. For a zombie game set in the UK, I am disappointed there was no zombie queen, king, or zombie corgis of the queen. I am upset that there was no use of the House of Parliament. I am upset that the Eye of the World Ferris wheel wasn't viewable. I'm upset that there wasn't a section on the London Bridge at all. It would have made a lot of sense if there was a section where the game did have mounted turrets, so it would have been easy enough to just shoot a mounted turret gun down the London Bridge and kill a bunch of zombies. That would have been a very easy to program scenario. There we go. We'll just take this victory because we don't want to stretch this out. There's a point in Zombie where you go into this preschool. I talked about this before, to get antibiotics. At no point do you see any children or baby zombies, so there's no reason to go into the preschool. It's not really that creepy or anything like that. And it would have made so much more sense and been smarter for them to say you're going into a hospital, and inside the hospital there would just be a lot of zombies. That would have made so much more sense, and it would make more sense why there would be antibiotics in the hospital. All of the locations look like they were kind of pre-bought, not really meant for this game. There are fast travel sewers that I assume were originally going to be sewer, London Tube subway stations, and that you were going to have to actually move in real time from the London subway system to get anywhere, and there would have been no fast travel, or at least not originally. Maybe you would unlock some fast travel eventually, but they got rid of that. You really don't ever get to see crowded London streets with a lot of cars or anything on them. You really don't get to see anything really that in any way felt like it was particularly special about London. There's no pub. You don't run into a single pub that you see even the outside of, from what I recall. There's really nothing. You see one red London bus, and it doesn't really do anything or move, or you don't go inside of it. So it was a mistake to play those two cards. I should have just waited. So yeah, it feels like at every stage of production in Zombie, they didn't know what they were doing. They were putting money towards the wrong things. It seems like they just had a bad concept and a bad producer director in general. The cricket, the way the game is designed, makes the default melee weapon, which is the cricket bat, so overpowered that there is no need for there to be guns in the game at all. It feels like the only reason why there are guns or any collectibles in there is because they were contractually obliged to the publisher to have guns and collectibles. I would say 99%, and that's not an exaggeration, of all of the metal containers and things that you can scan have nothing in them, at least on chicken mode. Maybe on regular mode you get more bullets. Maybe there's some more consideration that the engine would have been able to do, but I don't think the engine is programmed very well, because there definitely were points where I was extremely low on bullets and there were plenty of opportunities for the game to give me more bullets if it wanted to, and it didn't do it. And so you spend major amounts of time not having bullets for the guns that you do have. Meanwhile, the guns are taking up storage slots in your bug out bag, which is incredibly small when you get the original bug out bag, and then it upgrades 2 sizes for a massive amount of 4 extra spaces by the time you have the extra large bug out bag, which is to say it is built in a way so it doesn't matter even if you have the extra large ones. And that's pretty much everything about that game in a nutshell, is that nothing matters, because at any point you can die. So at any point the zombies have to be at the same level of difficulty as they have been since the beginning of the game, and it just does not work. It's probably an interesting example of why the breaking of a story, a canonical reason why you as the main character can just respawn when you die, is a good thing. Because if you actually had to play the games with one life, otherwise always they would just have to balance the games in such a terrible way that that people would not enjoy it at all. So yeah, Zombie is done. It's a shame. I've been waiting for pretty much since I started my YouTube channel about 5 years ago. I've wanted to play Zombie, but we've run into this problem of I don't want to really play scary games, and Zombie is slightly scarier, which it gets a little weird too that this was on the Wii U when it kind of is a mature game, sort of, although it doesn't really play like a mature game. It plays like it's a game that was designed for a kids console, designed for kids to play, so it's super easy, but then it's bloody and horrific. So yeah, you're in this it's in this weird position where there's no real target audience for where it was released. Honestly though, the fact that they brought it to PC is ridiculous. They shouldn't have bothered. It's so buggy and so terribly done that there's no reason that it needed to not just be forgotten. And frankly, Ubisoft would be better off if it was forgotten, because then there was overhype from what I recall. People liked Zombie U when it came out, at least somewhat. Perhaps they were just, there was nothing else to compare it to, and that was all that really mattered. Boy, I'm not winning with the Paladin as much as I used to. Let's see if maybe we've got something else. Let's try this custom Paladin in comparison. So, since I think the mainstream video game media was being overly generous to Zombie U, had Zombie not come out 4 years later on PC, that would have built you a buffer where you could have said, hey, we're going to take that concept of Zombie U and we're going to remake it and make a remake. It's going to be much more levels, much better gameplay. We're going to fix all the problems and then take that license and reboot it and try to do something a little bit different. It would have been a prime example of don't remake the good games that are fine, remake the bad games. But it would be kind of hard to do that now, since they spent that extra effort porting it to PC, which I'm sure did get them some sales, but I'm not sure it actually would have paid for the porting process, even done very badly, like it is. So yeah, Zombie is one of the worst games I've ever covered on my channel. Really, it really is. Totally not worth playing. It crashes, it locks up. It is everything you don't want in a video game. It's not even something where if you got it on sale for $1 or $2, I could suggest. It's like, even if you got the game for free, I can't recommend playing Zombie. Not on PC. Moving on, speaking of games I don't recommend, we have here a game called Survive on the Raft on Steam, which is a blatant and obvious clone of the game Raft. So you can see it's already got mixed reviews. The funny thing here is there is this realm where Raft, I believe, is on early access. This is $3.24 discounted. So here's the game as it is, Raft, which is very positive. Came out May 23rd, 2018. It's still early access, so there might be a argument that somebody could come in here and make a clone of this game or an exact copy of this game and put in more features and finish the product. But you would have to come out swinging extremely hard and have every single feature copied. Otherwise, you are just going to feel like a cheap clone, if not just straight up an asset theft game. And this feels like this is a mobile game by far when you look at the screen HUD. Seems like I'm going to have to crash out of Hearthstone though. It's not connecting, so let's reload Hearthstone. And while that is reloading, we'll look at the next game we have on Steam. We have something called Combo Postage, which this looks like this is a somewhat spin on Tetris, although I saw another game like this that did a little bit different, where you have to climb up or jump up while also stacking things. Let's see. Yeah, I can't fully understand what Combo Postage's goal is though. Let's try that again. On Hearthstone's custom paladin, jump back in. So looking at Combo Postage though, it looks like it's some mobile port or just an extremely simple game. It doesn't look like anything of interest. It's discounted to $2, so if I really understood this and if this was my style of gameplay, if I was looking for simplistic simplistic arcadey style games, there might be something here that interests me, but I'm not. This has one achievement, so it might very well be just an achievement game with 100% completion. Although with the latest Steam summer sale, it is, I guess, worth mentioning that the idea of getting 100% completion on achievement games was a little undercut by the Steam Grand Prix thing because you were getting rewarded for the number of achievements you have. So had you played thousands of achievement games, you would have been in a very good position to deal with that stuff and get a lot of points. Although it wouldn't have really helped you because you still would have been limited by the capacity of what you actually spent. So you would have had to have known this was happening, basically, played a ton of achievement games, and then spent thousands of dollars on more games. But I guess if you're an achievement hunter person, that might happen. I guess it really depends on how much you can get out of that, which I guess is the general question. Speaking of the Steam Summer Sale, it ends July 9th, and again, I'm asking people to friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. The Grand Prix game section of this is completely done now, so we can show off this, and I can fully report that picking second place, I picked Tortoise and I got second place. So I was exactly right there. I assume that there was a considerably higher number of people in Team Corgi. This was a dumb idea to have a team named after Corgi. Because they turned tokens from the previous game into tokens for this game. I have 99 left, which is exactly one short. I don't know if that was the intention all along or what. So Team Tortoise got 17 points, where Team Corgi got 31 points, where Team Hare got 12 points, and Pig only got 6. And kind of tied with Cockatiel. And if you look at the races, you can see that Tortoise was placed in a lot of these. And you can see Cyberpunk by far was the most requested game. So this was basically a free gift to Cyberpunk 2077. Meanwhile, the other games that were gifted, often Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and I guess Total War 3 Kingdoms appeared a lot too. But Tortoise consistently would make it second or third, so by far he placed a lot. Although Corgi would have placed a lot too, the difference is my odds were higher to get a game, or at least by my calculation, the odds would have been higher to get a game. That being said, the odds weren't very high, clearly, because I didn't get a game at all. Nothing ever. I participated in this as much as possible. Playing those special games to get more points would have not been anything I even needed to do. The thing was, I was just constantly limited by the capacity issue. I spent $120 about on this summer sale, which seems like a fine amount of game to spend, and I wasn't really willing to go up to $300 as I have in previous sales. And I have a significant amount of the games I need, but I always would like the newer games, and that's always harder to do, certainly, is to pre-order a brand new game like Cyberpunk 2077, so that would have been a great game to have gifted to me if it was gifted, but it's not happening, clearly.
Ooh, a rainbow.
So, yeah, I felt like maybe it would be 1 in 10,000 odds, but
Well played.
it probably was closer to 1 in 50,000 odds, even for Team Tortoise. It would be interesting if we ever get any official number of how many people actually participated in the Grand Prix. The Grand Prix as a idea was a mess, but the concept was not bad, and I would be perfectly fine in November if they were to double down. I'm just going to play Priest at this point. I'm not winning at all. I'm losing my ranked ladder stance at this point. If they doubled down on giving away games, and if they had a different system to it, that would be perfectly fine. They want to get some amount of interaction. They want to give you a reason to come back to the website. Otherwise, there's no point of them doing this at all. So it's not just going to be, we're going to give away free games to all people who have played a game on Steam in this time period, or all people just have a Steam account. Although they could do that. They could start the next sale, which would be like the November sale, or maybe it's the October sale. They could have said, just Happy Halloween, here's a $5 coupon for the off a purchase of a game. That could be a great way to start
Is someone injured?
start something
Right
like
away.
that. But then there needs to be probably a splitting of teams, and I guess in this case it probably the Grand Prix showed that there probably needs to be more teams, and I don't know how you can divide the teams in an intelligent way, because clearly having a Team Corgi was not an intelligent way to do that. Like if it's October sale and it was like a Team Ghost, Team Skeleton, Team Jack-o'-lantern, there probably needs to be an idea where you're going to be assigned a random team and just sorted. Or at least it starts that way, and then people could switch later. It needs to be some kind of simplistic thing. It basically needs to be a roulette wheel. If there was a roulette wheel and there was a team for every number on the roulette wheel, and then there was a 0 that gave gifts to everybody, that would be kind of the idea. It's like, but then you would make kind of a clicker game where, if you're making a clicker game where it's just spinning a roulette wheel over and over again, that's gonna be kind of boring. So yeah, but something along the lines of a roulette wheel or a bingo card, something like that would be great. Yeah, bingo might be the best part in general, to do something like that. But I would definitely want to see the I'd like to see the improvement happen significantly as more games were given away, and some kind of feedback, because honestly it is possible that 1 million people got free games on the Steam Summer Sale, but until you get get a counter, and clearly that was a mistake as part of the game, and I'm suggesting doing a roulette wheel, and I'm completely ignoring the fact that if they did anything that looked like a roulette wheel, people would complain that it's encouraging gambling. So there's problems with that idea also. But there definitely should have been a number in the Steam sale going like 1,000 games given away so far, and just slowly increment that number every time, so it always looks like the number's going up. And you can do that pretty easily, as long as you know that by the time you give away some more games, you've reached the actual number of games that you've given away so far. You can always underreport the number to make it look like it's slowly creeping, instead of saying, oh, a big batch of games were given away. Or you could just program your giveaway mechanism to happen every few seconds, so that it is actually always giving away a few more games. Yeah, a game given away every minute sounds very interesting, certainly, or every second. The way the Grand Prix tried to get you to use your wish list was interesting, but a huge failure, because it didn't really teach anybody or encourage anybody to learn how to use the wish list better. It just had people ruining their wish lists in hopes of getting free games. By the way, I already see the end of the road today, so I'm kind of rambling here, but like there's that's all we needed to do on the Americas account, and since I already can see the end of the road, let's move over to the European account. Remember, we'll have the Tavern Brawl on the Asian account, so that will be the longer part of today's stream. We have an article here from Komatsu. One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. It's due out in 2020. This is a different One Piece game compared to the previous One Piece game that was not well received. This seems like this is a fighting game. Now, I don't know why anybody would really want to play a fighting game around One Piece, because while One Piece is a fighting anime, all the characters have these weird, unique abilities that are just increasingly over the top. So I don't know how you make a fighting game around that, really, and make it balanced and interesting. When you compare that to something like Street Fighter, most of those characters are somewhat close to each other. Or Mortal Kombat, same thing. These are characters that are close enough to each other that, let's do Mage and Shaman today, that it feels legitimate that they'd actually be able to fight each other, whereas that's not really the way it works. Yeah, in One Piece. I think One Piece is just animated too weird to be a game I'd really want to play. I would have preferred that the single adventure motion that was a hack and slash beat 'em up, not hack and slash, but a beat 'em up style game. I would have preferred that work and have been better. Had that been better, then it would have it would have been this style of game I would want to play. A lot of this is just Anime Expo, Komatsu updates stuff that we have. Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation 2 is coming to the West in 2019. Update. I believe they have some more screenshots, maybe a trailer. This is, I think, a cell phone game. Let's see, where are they putting the tags these days? PS4. PS4 game.
What to do? Time runs out on me.
So, yeah, it doesn't look terrible. It doesn't look amazingly interesting either, though. And I still really don't see how you could convince people to get into Mobile Suit Gundam. You're gonna have to make a huge, really, really effective game. Is my guess. That's what they want. Is something that would cover the entirety of the Mobile Suit Gundam storyline and let you play through it, kind of like the Lego games. Yeah, I guess that would be the closest example. We're gonna hit this. We're gonna hit this. And then we're going to play not this. Well, then I have to do this, and that sucks because I don't want to do that. I wasted the coin.
Job's done.
Gamatsu has an article here. Code Vein opening animation Revenant Bundle Edition announced. There's this opening animation that Code Vein is the anime Dark Souls game sequel from the developers of Dark Souls, I believe. So this is where they went. I think that there was some split between Bloodborne and the team that did Bloodborne and the other Dark Souls games. This is a world where there's like 2 different types of zombies, and they're all wearing these weird masks, and not zombies but vampires and other kinds of monsters.
What to do?
So it's always been very interesting looking, although it doesn't really look like this. This opening animation is not a clear explanation still of the story. Yeah, I feel like Code Vein is not going to really make sense until you actually have it in your hand. I lost my character anyways. So yeah, the hype is getting higher and higher for Code Vein, I think, particularly in the Japanese world. And we will see that increase, I think, more and more. Alright. I'm hoping that this will just cast that spell again. Why is this guy drawing a card every time I die? Something dies. Oh, he's not. That was just the end of my turn. So yeah, I'm excited to see some real reviews of Code Vein when it comes out. I'm not specifically going to be super hyped on it. As somebody who played the Dark Souls 1 and really didn't get into it and didn't get very far, if Code Vein is a little bit more linear, a little bit easier, which is, I know, probably not what most people want in a Dark Souls game, or a spiritual successor to Dark Souls, but if it feels like there's more of a story and more of a linear experience, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Let's see. And this.
Feeble more. Job done.
Now I'm just hoping this will do more damage to clear the field. And it seems like it will. Alright. Can we do this? And then this.
Scry more. Job's done.
then in the turn.
Behold.
Next, we have a game on Steam here called Until Forever. This looks like it is an early access infinite driver. It doesn't look bad, actually. It is just an asset flip infinite driver, but at least I will say it's visually polished. It's asking for $7.69 discounted, and it's in a game bundle with several other games that don't look particularly interesting. Here's one called Cyber Driver, so they're just selling the same game twice. It's got 8 achievements, and yeah, it's almost certainly a cheap Chinese game when I look at some of these other names, these other games, although, yeah, the languages don't really confirm that. Yeah, this of course is not something that should be on the follow list. I had a win streak there, I guess, and so with the win streak I can work my way up, ranked some more. Next game we have on Steam is called Victorian Mysteries, Women in White. This is from HH Games, another hidden object game. It is nice to see competition, although we don't really clearly and obviously see that in any other style of game on Steam. It's not like there's one company that is out there putting out first-person shooters every time another company puts out a first-person shooter. Or I guess it kind of does happen, like EA and Ubisoft and Activision probably do directly compete with each other, but they get out of each other's way enough that you won't actually see it, which puts you in this point where you really couldn't easily compare anyways. But it is a hidden object game, so Victorian Mysteries, Woman in White, well, it looks like a fine hidden object game, and it is priced perfectly fine at $3.99 discounted with English and German language support. It's still just a hidden object game, and I don't feel a need to cover any more hidden object games ever. I've covered enough of them. If you don't know what a hidden object game is by this point, then I think there's probably some other sources you can find. This next story caught my eye a little bit.
Greetings, friend.
You know, honestly, I kind of like the lack of pressure that you have when there's just no new games and no news to talk about, because of, some of this almost certainly has to do with the 4th of July weekend. It still does give me the idea that somebody very trivially is looking at submissions that come to the Steam storefront and just putting a check mark or a no on it. There has to be, because clearly we've never been to the point where trolls are just putting up straight up Nazi propaganda or Pepe's as screenshots. It's all been at least somewhat hidden on a minimal effort. Let's see. So yeah, somebody probably in India looks at every game and says either immediately approve or send for more evaluation, and they took the 4th of July weekend off, and then they probably took it off because the people that are higher up probably are in America, if I was to guess. Of course, that's all just speculation on my part.
Page turner.
More your magic. Job done.
So this next story caught my eye. I said, Gamatsu has an article here. Amazon UK list a Batman Arkham collection for the PS4 and Xbox One. It includes Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight. which I don't believe includes Arkham Origins. And I would really have to do some research to figure out if Arkham Asylum is the first game that I know I played. I definitely didn't play Arkham City, but I believe there was a game between City and Night, and I think Night is the last game, and it was the game so bad that it got taken off of Steam and forced Steam to finally institute refunds.
Science overwhelming.
Or perhaps forced is the wrong term, perhaps encouraged. Might be a more accurate term. So, I don't believe I own any of the Batman and Arkham games on Steam. If there is some kind of bundle that would give me, or a new collection or a new release that would give me all of the Arkham games, I'd think about it, although I don't know if there's really a lot of reason to bother with trying to cover these games. Let's see. Because it really is more of a situation where that's just already been done. There's really no reason to jump in trying to cover 3 particularly long Batman games. Meanwhile, there aren't any real Batman movies coming out anytime soon, and the video games never really integrated with the movies anyways. It's taking all my spell damage after I spent all that time getting all that spell damage. Alright, now deal 4 and there we go. Gamatsu has an article here. A free-to-play battle royale called Don't Even Think for PS4 launches July 10th in North America. I haven't heard anything about it, so seems like it's running around a forested area fighting maybe werewolves. Yeah. Maybe there's a game idea there, but I don't really see much. I think the thing at this point that would beat Fortnite is not going to be something that is a battle royale at all. If I was to guess, it would probably be something that is
future is ours.
Something that is way different than that.
Behold the tools of creation.
Let me show you the arcade.
Behold the tools of creation.
Yeah, you basically need this card. This is a card you need to win with this deck. Gamatsu has an article here. Digimon Survive has been delayed to 2020. Opening movie was shown at the Anime Expo. So we're still very much having the Japanese style of announcing a game and then immediately delaying it, or very quickly delaying it. Which I still think is probably better than the way things are done in the West, where games are announced and then not delayed, but then instead are just released in unfinished ways. Okay. This. And do that. And still probably gonna lose. TechRaptor has an article here. Dragon's Dogma online service shutting down. The client downloads halting on July 11th. This is what I think for the Japanese market particularly is what I was seeing, but I guess maybe it's for everybody. Maybe the other servers have already been shown. So if you were playing Dragon's Dogma online, you're probably peeved about that, but I suspect that there actually weren't too many people that were playing Dragon's Dogma online, and that was the problem in a nutshell. So we can kill that. That one still can't attack.
Job done.
So he's got to do a little bit more damage.
Twist the trees, foul the lake, and curse this land.
So, alright.
Let me show you the arcade.
Unless this guy just started running out of cards, I don't see how I win this one. TechRaptor has an article here. Heavy rain review, bad weather report, bad weather port report. So this is the PC port of Heavy Rain. It is the that are was it an Epic Store exclusive? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. The game Heavy Rain was very much built around doing these QuickTime events, specifically built around playing with the PlayStation controller and motion controller. So moving that to PC is going to be kind of hard, to say the least, and not great. Here you can see a QuickTime event to undo a brawn. Some go. I don't know the full story here. Let's see. So, why should you play Heavy Rain on PC? If you're mainly a PC game, there's a wicked pleasure in finally getting a console exclusive on a platform of your choice. Now, if you've ever wanted to play the game in the future, you can just log on to the digital library of choice, download and play it. Wait, well, that's not really true. Let's see. So, in a weird way, I think the Heavy Rain port is done in a way to not put all your eggs in one basket for the developer. Quantic, I believe Quantic Dreams is the developer. They want to get away from being a PlayStation exclusive developer, because that deal seems to be falling apart. Although overall they gave it a 7.0, very good. So if you've already played Heavy Rain on PlayStation, so you won't miss anything. If you're totally new to it as a PC gamer, it might surprise you with its branching narrative and raw drama, even if the writing occasionally misses the mark. Pros: compelling branching narrative, some impressive raw drama. Cons are pointless interactions and unorthodox controls and slipshod writing. I've never heard of this word, slipshod. I've heard of shoddy, but I've never heard slipshod. So I guess, yeah, if you want to play Heavy Rain, then it's a decent a decent way to play it is on PC. Although I would say I think Heavy Rain in particular is a
Story deserves a new ending.
What am I trying to say here? I think it's a game that tried to do the Telltale style of gameplay, but then felt the need to put in even more quick time events than you normally would have in a Telltale style gameplay game, and because of that, it probably would have been better if they had gotten rid of a lot of the quick time events. Heavy Rain has also been optioned to be made into a movie, according to his Wikipedia article, except for that was done in 2006. So that's not anything recent. But what I'm trying to find here, as this guy's just dragging this on for no reason, is I'm not seeing a link to the Epic Games Store. Yeah, okay, finally, this Wikipedia article says it will be exclusively available at the Epic Games Store for a year before appearing elsewhere, is what it says. Yep. So yeah, when it comes to Steam, I'd be willing to get Heavy Rain, but I frankly would only want to get it I would only want to get it at a very discounted price, and getting Heavy Rain would be just the first game in the Quantic Dream style of games. That I'd also want to get Detroit. I'd also want to get the other one that they did, because I know there's been 3. There's the one with the 2 souls and the character that looks like Ellen Page but doesn't have the voice acting of Ellen Page in it, or maybe vice versa. I don't even remember the whole story around that. And none of those games are great, frankly. Detroit's not really worth playing unless you're just doing it as a scientific observation. Unless you're a YouTuber looking to criticize it, I don't think it's really worth playing Heavy Rain or any of the other games. Well, that game took so long, I ended up with another daily quest. Well, none of that lines up with anything here, so let's just stick with the mage. I feel like the mage is a decent way, but let's play the shaman just because the shaman I'm hoping will be a little bit quicker. TechRaptor has an article here. Armored Mewtwo is coming to Pokemon Go. I think it's a little weird that you would have a special character in his armored version. That this is the only Pokemon I've ever seen to have armor, and it was in the Pokemon movie. So that really seems silly and ridiculous. Let's see. But I guess maybe Pokemon Go at this point is running a little short on things to release, and I guess Pokemon Go dies. It just completely dies if there aren't new Pokemon games making new Pokemon coming out on a regular basis. Unless they wanted to flip it and introduce new Pokemon in Pokemon Go, and then say these Pokemon that you're seeing on Pokemon Go would be the same Pokemon that would be coming out in the next Pokemon mainline game. that could work, certainly. That is the silliness, I guess, of them not making new animations for the Pokemon and doing the National Pokedex. From my perspective, is the idea that you have Game Freak making several different Pokemon games. They could be all working together to make new Pokemon and new animations, and then it could be easy copy and paste of those characters from one game into 3 other ones. Next we have a game on Steam here called Lotus Minigames Berlin Traffic. This looks like it is a old DOS game, and I'm almost there was a software called Lotus Notes, I believe, but I don't see how you could make a game inside of Lotus Notes, or if it would look like this, because I don't think I used that software ever. This game is $3.59 discounted and English only. It has a third-party EULA and 5 achievements. I don't think so. Not worth $4. Overload due to damage.
Shall we make a store?
Again, we have very little news to talk about, so I'm stretching this out. I should probably not even be playing ranked. I should be playing casual just to get victories. And we may need to just jump over to the Asian account because we're going to run out of news. And it might be an easy way and a smart way to stretch out a 4th of July weekend for myself if I just take the opportunity to play off screen and not talk and not wear out my voice, which is still a big issue. Now that I am done with Zombie, I can now try the tweak that might stop the Lego games in Resident Evil 4 from stuttering on my computer. That would be amazing if it did. That would be so nice. I'm working my way up towards the Amazon Prime Day event. Not that there's a guarantee that any of that stuff is actually in any way worth doing, worth purchasing. But yeah, as far as other work I need to do, it's going to be a lot of butt and seat economics, as I use that, or tactics. I might be it's going to be a lot of sitting in a chair and scheduling videos. I've been needing to schedule videos and such for a while, and it's going to be a lot of uploading. So I don't be surprised if by by Wednesday I still haven't really done anything. Over the weekend I watched the niche TV show Dead Like Me. I could talk about it, certainly, I guess. The creator of Dead Like Me left after the first 5 episodes of the first season. It went 2 full seasons and it then abruptly ended. It had a direct-to-TV movie that really isn't probably worth mentioning, and so what's interesting is I feel like the creator of Dead Like Me, well, the story is it's a a teenager or a young adult, and like 18-year-old girl who dies and gets forced into becoming a Reaper amongst this group of other screw-up people who are also Grim Reapers. And in a lot of ways, I've heard it described as my so-called life, which I probably should just watch my so-called life, because it centers around not an A and a B plot, where there's throughout each episode there's an important story, a main story being told, and then a secondary story. It's really two A plots that never interact or overlap or even matter. There's this A plot of the family of the girl who died and following them, and that really is just a family drama show covering the story of how does one go forward when one loses your sister slash child in the family. And then there's the other A plot, which is this fantasy Grim Reaper world where Grim Reapers are out doing their jobs, and sometimes when they're doing their jobs they get a C or a third A plot where you kind of get some kind of dialogue or backstory to the person that is being reaped. Otherwise it is more focused around just a desire to learn more about the world where there are these Grim Reapers. And then there's these creatures called Gravelings that actually cause people to have accidents and die in some instances. Although if people just die of natural causes, it doesn't seem like the Gravelings do anything or anywhere near that. And the Grim Reapers really just are releasing the soul of people before they die, so that they don't feel any pain in that whatever horrific act happens to them, or they don't stay locked in their bodies as they're getting autopsied. And at one point, for comedic effect, they imply if you don't release the soul before they are horrifically mangled, then they have to be horrifically mangled for all eternity. You don't really know where the souls go, although both the idea of having the Gravelings and showing these like sparkling lights that are custom for each person that dies, assumedly leaving them to a heaven or possibly a hell, although there's no real indication that any of them are actually getting sent to a bad place at all. It seems like everybody that gets their soul released gets sent to heaven. Of course, they dance around a lot of logical flaws around this idea, because the souls are quote unquote released when a Grim Reaper touches people, but then they don't leave the body in an animated way until after they die. So it's as if a soul and a body are standing in the same place. They also introduce a Grim Reaper that takes animal souls, and that certainly then opens the floodgates of, is this animal Reaper touching every ant, every bee, every fly that dies, or is it only a certain level of sentient souls or intelligent souls? We see him release the soul of a rabbit, a dog, and a Komodo dragon, so those are like pets in general. But it does open the floodgates. At the very end of the story, in the second season, it's a bit of a spoiler, there's one bad guy that's a human that gets introduced. he gets murdered by a Grim Reaper, and he wasn't supposedly supposed to die, so he gets turned into a Graveling, and then a couple episodes later, the main Grim Reaper tries to remove the soul out of that Graveling, and it just burns it up and destroys it, and it just falls to ash. Now, this being the second time I think I've watched the entire series, I've noticed some... they really wanted to just tell stories and stretch this out as a... the people still in charge after the creator left the first 5 episodes. They just wanted to stretch it out and keep on telling stories. But you really open the floodgates again when the Grim Reapers can kill the Gravelings, which theoretically means she could run around and kill all the Gravelings on the planet with the help of the other Grim Reapers, and then nobody would ever die ever. Which would have been an interesting story plotline, but it didn't go anywhere because the series was ended and cancelled. And I'm just going to talk about this TV show because there's kind of time to do it. But what you can kind of see is they totally weren't good at the economy of making TV. Very often you would see props and locations that were just forced as props and locations that had to be used again. So you would see that a prop for a food guillotine object was used and made. This was something that clearly somebody had to make, spend some art money on to make the box and the prop. And it was just supposed to be a gag for one episode of how somebody would die silly. Most of the characters die in silly, ridiculous ways, and it always teases this, oh, is he gonna die this way? Oh, is he gonna die that way? Can you guess how this guy is gonna die? But then you see them not really make a callback or a reference to the fact that food guillotine is there. It's just brought back. And so at one point, one character is doing a lawn sale to get rid of all of the items that he owns to make money, and everything on the lawn sale has been a prop that he collected in that entire season. And you'll see that with locations too, where there's very little reason why you would be going to this location to have this conversation when you could have just had this kind of conversation on the street. And the main thing was probably pre-production thought too. They started with the Gravelings being something that you could only see out of the side of your eye, and it really should have only been something that was implied or mentioned at the beginning, and then you just never saw them again. They started showing up in every episode, and when this series was happening, which it's been about 10 years, that would have been an expensive CGI budget, and the CGI was getting better as you got to the end of the second season. So even more money was probably being spent to make these Gravelings look better. And then also you had this expensive CGI budget of the lights that all the souls go into, the custom invitation into heaven, as it were. And meanwhile, the storyline wasn't really calling it heaven or explaining anything. Because the main creator left after 5 episodes, they also lost one of the main female leads, so they replaced her quickly. But then another female lead, Roxy, was constantly appearing and disappearing on the show. She would show up for like one scene and then be gone for 3 episodes. She played very little role, and it does not look right or feel right. There's far too many characters in the story in the first place. You could have easily lost at least 1 main character, probably 2, maybe even 3, because if we did, I think a short count here. You have the main character, you have her father, her mother, her sister. That's 4. You have her boss, her Grim Reaper boss, her office boss, because half of the show is also an office comedy. By the end of the 2nd season, there were at least 2 recognizable co-workers with a lot more extras, certainly as far as co-workers in her day job. Then you have 1, 2, 3 more co-workers that were coming on every episode. So you're talking, and my count is totally off here, but I'm thinking at least 11 main actors in this show. That's way too many characters to have on a TV show. It makes it feel kind of like a Blue Bloods or one of those like Chicago Fire type shows where there's a whole firehouse of characters. But even if there's a whole firehouse of characters, I think Chicago Fire is probably smarter than Dead Like Me did it, because it's just a ton of people. It's far too many people to have to always write to. Or if you were going to get back to like Star Trek Next Generation, let's just count Star Trek The Next Generation, because Star Trek the original series, it's Bones, Spock, and Kirk. And then in later seasons you had like Sulu, and maybe once in a while the lady would get a bone thrown to her. So you're talking 5 or 6 main characters, but really only 3 main characters.
Shall we make a storm?
So, yeah. But Next Generation had like Picard, #1, Worf, the Doctor, whether it was the first Doctor or the second Doctor. Wesley Crusher sometimes got an extra show, and then you had like Geordie LaForge, who was in engineering most of the show. I believe they're... Let's see. Yeah, I don't feel like there was anybody really in charge of engineering. And then Data, yeah. So when you talk about the Next Generation, where there's a ton of people in Star Trek The Next Generation too, and it went, I believe, 5 seasons, and that there was a lot more time to spread out and build on all of those characters too.
I did this. I cursed them all.
Yeah, it feels like 7, maybe 8 characters, main characters in Star Trek The Next Generation, compared to 11. It's just way too many characters. Way too much. That Dead Like Me was spending way too much on CGI, way too much on characters. According to an article from quite a while ago, the reason why the creator left is because he was working with MGM, and MGM was apparently an old boys club, was his description, and it was just a horrible experience, was what he said, and it basically traumatized him.
Thunderstruck.
Which, okay, I mean that is believable. Certainly that MGM was the problem. This Dead Like Me was a Showtime series, and frankly, it probably could and did get the budget, but it didn't spend the budget well. I think maybe the Old Boys Club played a part in the later episodes, but then you're also in this weird position where you can't really love Dead Like Me because of I believe the creator's name is Brian Fuller, and he later on made Pushing Daisies and he's making American Gods on Showtime now, I believe, and there's several other movie shows. Seems like everything he's made does somewhat center around death in a morbid, dark comedy way, which I like quite a bit. It's my find of. I'm a fan of dark comedic fantasy stories. That being said, you really can't like Dead Like Me because Brian Fuller made it. His original concept may have done something there, but it really was the people after episode 5 that spread it out long enough to give it something that was likable. But then also, when you look at the episodes after episode 5, you are definitely falling into something that feels like Cheers or Frasier or something like that, where it's just episodes that there is a linear plot in a way that you'd want to watch it in order, but it wouldn't be in a terrible position if you watched some episodes out of order either. There is kind of a question of where can it go. When you compare it to The Good Place, which I don't believe it was created by anybody that worked on Dead Like Me, The Good Place just starts with the premise that this is heaven, and someone who wasn't supposed to be in heaven was allowed in heaven, and so they have to take these moral, ethical lessons to be a good person to deserve to stay in heaven, or elsewise she'll get caught. And it starts with that premise and then pretty much abandons that premise after the second season, or at some midpoint in the second season, and moves the story forward and actually works to try and make some kind of answers that are somewhat acceptable, or just makes fun of something if it's something that can't make any sense or be an acceptable answer. Like, The Good Place is almost certainly never going to show a character that claims to be God. If they do, it probably would be the final episode of the entire show. Or they're not going to show a character that is going to be the biblical Satan. But there is a character that plays a judge. There is a character that plays the main bad guy. But he's just kind of like a middle manager, and that's it. And I would say The Good Place does a really good job of using what it has as far as locations and props to save on budget, but not in a way that doesn't make sense canonically. I don't know if this is going to be enough.
Back to the void.
Let's see. But then, yeah, The Good Place at no point, well, being a much more recent show on ABC, which is owned by Disney, it probably has as much funding as it wants, and And being so much more modern, CGI is not really an issue. It's almost as if in every generation there can only be a few of these niche shows, and I think that probably is true. For every niche show like Dead Like Me or The Good Place, there needs to be a dozen terrible NYPD Blues type shows, or
Time runs out on me.
or family sitcoms. Like, I guess Last Man Standing would be the most recent one of any real note.
Shall we make a storm?
So, yeah, it's weird, certainly. We have somebody on the chat typing in Russian. The rule in the chat is English only. So if you type in Russian again, I'm gonna have to mute you because I cannot curate chat. I cannot read. So sorry for that. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I want to say about Dead Like Me. I liked it. It's worth watching once. It's worth watching maybe a few years later a second time, but it is also kind of this disappointing story that doesn't really go anywhere and isn't really going to say anything. And all the actors have aged out of it quite a bit. So yeah, I don't know what you could really do, or if you could even redo it. It kind of has the same issue as doing a reboot or restart of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where I think they're actually trying to do that. I think about doing that. Buffy the Vampire Slayer ended, all the characters were getting older, all the actors were getting older. It was getting to the point where it wouldn't have been too realistic to go on. And they'd just done everything. They had done everything on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Probably 3 seasons before it ended. But then they went on and they did a comic book. And I think in the comic book world, yeah, you can kind of pace it differently. The Good Place comes in these bursts of episodes. And I think that helps it too, where they're not doing full long seasons. Because every episode of the Good Place in particular is built around a twist or a surprise that is supposed to keep you hanging for the next episode. So I would have been a lot happier, frankly, if I had found out that Dead Like Me continued its story in some kind of comic book. Of course, comic books suck these days and probably always have sucked, but I would have been happier about that, certainly. I'm happy that for the super fans that wanted to see Buffy go on, the comic book went on for some amount of time. I don't know how much time that really was. Gonna move over here to casual and play as mage again. But yeah, I would have liked to see the story end in some way. It is kind of like the leak that would have been the end of the story of Half-Life 3. Although the leak that was from the writer who would have written Half-Life 3 doesn't really wrap up the Half-Life story, and that's really what needs to happen. Is there just needs to be a wrap up. Gordon Freeman, not Gordon Ramsay. He's the chef. Gordon Freeman needs to heroically sacrifice himself at the end of Half-Life 3, and that needs to be the end of the series. And then perhaps you have Shell find the weapons or find some message from Gordon Freeman thousands of years in the future in some like announced or teased reboot of the series where you play as Chell from Portal in the Half-Life universe, doing more of a first-person shooting thing. Although, arguably, I think a lot of people would probably make the argument that what Portal got right with the Source engine was to take the cliched first-person shooter concept and get rid of that and make a first-person puzzle platformer instead, which was a new concept now. If Chell went back to just a first-person shooter concept, probably wouldn't be that good. And frankly, if they were to just make a Half-Life 3, it probably wouldn't be that good. Because it would be a pretty cliche, generic first-person shooter, and we get plenty of those already. It might very well feel like an asset flip game. I'm gonna cough, 1 second. Yeah, it feels like I'm just expanding my 4th of July weekend, which is fair enough. Like, I am kind of happy to do that. Like, I really don't see a reason to not just enjoy life and grab all the gusto as possible. Yeah, but talking about Half-Life, I don't know how you fix that. The Counter-Strike Go first-person shooting multiplayer element has gotten incremental improvements as we go, and Team Fortress, same thing, incremental improvements certainly, but nothing really to solve the issues that you would want to see solved.
Let me show you the arcade. My books.
Job done.
Yeah. So, if you were to make a Half-Life 3 game, it really would just be a first-person shooter. Like, and I don't know what you'd even really compare it to, other than the previous Half-Life games, which I don't know if that really means anything, because it probably would be an incredibly slow game. So maybe Valve should just hire somebody to make a movie, and that's it. Just, we're gonna have somebody and they're going to make Half-Life 3 the movie, or Half-Life the movie, that's gonna wrap up the whole story and then act as a way to scrub the internet of the Half-Life 3 jokes and just finish that story and just say, look, there's nothing to be done there. First-person shooters, while they will always be more first-person shooters, they are going to be like Battlefront, and they are going to be like Call of Duty. There's not going to be a lot there. Level by Level Gaming's on the chat. He says hello. Hello, Level by Level Gaming. See how this works. So, since I'm just wasting time here, since we've got things to do, the other thing I watched last night was a BBC film called Frequently Asked Questions about Time Travel, which is a comedy where these three friends go into a pub and then get involved in this time travel loop where every time they go into the bathroom and come out, they are at a completely different time. And so that they get sent like to the future, and then they get sent like to the past, and they're just trying to get back, and several times they are sent like 30 minutes before they left, so they're trying to not be seen by their own copies, which, yeah, it's not a bad movie. It is just a light-hearted, fair piece of comedy. It has Chris O'Dowd, who is the Irish or Scottish guy from the IT crowd. It seems like he was in this movie either during the early parts of the IT crowd or before, since Chris O'Dowd now has moved on to the Get Shorty TV series and making movies in the United States. Man, I'm not getting anywhere as far as victories. It's going to be one of those days at this rate, and I'm going to be so done with news. I'm sitting on news intentionally here, just yabbering on, because I know this is taking too long. Let's give it one more game. If we don't get a victory here, I'm going to move over to the Asian account. We'll do the Tavern Brawl, and then we'll probably just wrap up at that point, because I think what I'm going to quickly find is I'm out of stuff to talk about. See, speaking of being out of stuff to talk about, we have TechRaptor here with an article, Boyfriend Dungeon Bends the Limit of Dating Sims. This is probably the 12th article written about Boyfriend Dungeon, who is not out yet. Like, I am more than willing to see a dating simulator dungeon crawler game where your swords are characters you date. That is great. But the problem here is this is not a game that's out. All this is a hype article. We were getting hype articles, I swear, a year ago, and we're still getting hype articles about Boyfriend Dungeon, which is ridiculous. And clearly, this is a case where TechRaptor is feeling either some very special love, or is friends with the developers of Boyfriend Dungeon, or a backer themselves. That they have some undisclosed special coverage that they are giving, whether it's they're being paid to sponsor articles or such. And I wish there was a news source for video games that wouldn't do that I'd be willing to actually follow, but TechRaptor is the only news source I'm one of about 3 at this point that I'm willing to even listen to, because of just how much ridiculousness gets published by other people like Polygon and Kotaku and such. Level by Level Gaming says, we love the IT crowd. I loved it too. It's getting a little hard for me to watch the IT crowd, because in the past like 5 years I probably watched it 3 or 4 times all the way through, and it does hold up on second viewing, but very little holds up to a 3rd or 4th viewing, and particularly when you're talking comedy, and thus there's that level of lack of surprise by the 4th or 5th viewing. It's getting down to the level of, like, if you knew every song in a musical and you're mouthing along every word, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show is a great example. If you're a fan of that and you're watching it on an annual basis, you probably know all of the words and know it by heart. Unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna get too much more like the IT crowd, because the person who was the main writer seems to have gone a little bit crazy. Twitter seems to have led a lot of people towards going towards some crazy right wing and left wing thoughts and rants, and I don't think that the writer for the IT crowd would get any more productions made, and yeah, there's probably a few other issues around that. If you like the IT crowd, the creator who made that also made a British comedy called Father Ted, which is very funny, and he also made a comedy called My Hero. Both of those are pretty old, so I'm thinking the creator of the IT crowd is pretty old too, in his like late 60s, 70s, and he's probably just should retire at this point, and hopefully we'll find some new creator that can do the same thing. Certainly there are shows that try to cover it the same way. I would also say the IT crowd had to realize that it could not always be jokes about nerd things over and over again, and very quickly moved away from, oh, these are 3 random nerds that could be replaced doing nerd jokes, to these are 3 very important characters that people have grown to love, and they really can't be replaced. They tried to do an American version of the IT crowd, and it didn't go anywhere. Also, whereas if you see what was super successful, but in my opinion incredibly unfunny and bad, there's that sitcom TV show with the character Sheldon. I can't remember the name of the show though. Where it's a hot girl that for some insane reason is dating this super autistic nerd guy, and his nerd friends. Big Bang Theory is what it's called. That's the show I'm thinking about. Yeah. I've never for a second even sat down to watch even 5 minutes of Big Bang Theory, but I can tell from the commercials in the crowd and the way it's shown and its horrible laugh track that I would never enjoy that. And I can't really think too many nerd or geek people would enjoy Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory always struck me as something that was basically making fun of nerds and geeks at their expense and pretending like it wasn't. I'm gonna play some priest cards and get the second deck here. Let's see. Level by level says we're on the second. I guess that's the second season of the IT crowd. Napoleon Dynamite, we watch that once a year and quote it, along with Nacho and Gentleman Bronco, all by the same writers. Yeah, and I haven't seen Napoleon Dynamite, or I don't know what Nacho or Gentleman Bronco is, but yeah, I've totally missed out on any of those shows. I haven't watched a lot of things, certainly, because I mostly, if I'm doing my job right as a YouTuber who plays and criticizes video games, which I'm really not doing my job right now because I'm talking about TV and video and movies, I don't have a lot of extra time to watch movies or anything like that. I watched the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse on Netflix, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think the animation style was a little groundbreaking. It still sucks that Sony is patenting that animation style or bits of that animation style so other people can't use it. I would say it feels very weird as an older person who who has a certain expectations that Peter Parker should be Spider-Man and Peter Parker should act a certain way, and you don't get that particular Peter Parker in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Universe. You don't get the young, cocky, comedic Peter Parker. You get an old Peter Parker that is on the verge of retiring and wanting to have kids, and instead you get the new Spider-Man Miles Morales, and there's nothing wrong with him. But then with Miles Morales, you get this this rap soundtrack throughout the entire movie, and I don't know what you really should do for a superhero movie, but I would think it would be more composed orchestral music. Like, I wouldn't expect rap. And the Marvel movies up until this one, which I guess technically this is a Marvel movie, they run into an issue where the other Marvel movies just kind of play very little portions, very like quiet portions of pop music, so you don't even realize that it's there. In Spider-Man Into the Spider-Universe or Spider-Verse, it's so much in your face, the rap, that you can't help but hear it and notice it. It is the main focus of the sections that it's in, and it just feels weird. And then you have like Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker and the other Spider-Man from the different universes show up, and I don't think they spend any time or effort to think, okay, these different Spider-Men should have at least one song around them too. So it would have been more appropriate if I was the sound producer. I don't know why I'd ever be the sound producer of anything, but I would think it would make a lot of sense that when Peter Parker was on screen, he would get a more traditional song, and then when like the Japanese anime Spider Girl was on screen and she had a robot, that she would get some kind of like K-pop or J-pop style. Yeah, it should have been a J-pop style of Spider-Man that played when Gwen Stacy was on. You could have done something funny there and said she was into like death metal or something, and have a death metal Spider-Man voice. When the Spider-Man noir character was on, you could have had some noir style music. You just don't really have that though. And so
Right away.
just in the soundtrack alone, and but also in other elements, I screwed up there. I should have attacked with this first. You run into this issue where Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse really is just an excuse to introduce Miles Morales, which, knowing the comic book world, unless Disney is going to change how Marvel is run a lot, which would be a good idea, frankly, almost certainly there is this chance that Miles Morales will be killed off or no longer the focus in the Spider-Man comics by the time the next Spider-Man movie comes out. And that may be even the case now. I don't even know who is the main focus Spider-Man right now. Is it Miles Morales, or is it back to Peter Parker already? There's nothing really wrong with Miles Morales. I liked him as a character, but he really should just have been his own character and not a replacement or yet another Spider-Man. Same with Gwen Stacy. She's a fine character, but she breaks out of it because she goes by Gwen Stacy. If anything, they're learning the lessons from mistakes in the past, where you would have Batwoman, or which is DC, or Batgirl, or Spider-Woman, where these titles really just say this is just the non-default version of Batman or Spider-Man, and thus they are not as good, or at least that's the implication you can take from that. So by just having Miles Morales be known mostly as Miles Morales, just having Gwen Stacy being known as, for the most part, as Gwen Stacy, that fixes some issues pretty nicely. But yeah, let me think if there's anything else I've watched on TV or maybe. Yeah, there's been tons of stuff. Like I'm really getting into Amazon Prime and just watching old TV shows in particular.
I just want some peace and
Where
quiet.
Netflix is good for new things, and I need to get around to watching Stranger Things Season 3. The Amazon Prime is good for watching old things and more TV and movies in general, just a little bit more variety. So it's kind of nice to have both, although it's probably a little too expensive to have both. And I've had Amazon Prime for probably 2 years now and not really been watching anything on it. But yeah, I started watching Recreators on Amazon Prime because Amazon Prime does have better anime selections, better quality anime selections, and probably a little bit better quantity too. But I then kind of stopped watching that too, so I need to either get around to finishing watching that, or I'm going to end up
Right away.
not remembering anything. See, Level by Level Gaming said something. See, Level by Level Gaming said a while ago, I see you were forgiven, lol. Yep. There's definitely stuff that I know people are super excited about, that just the fact that I know people are super excited about turns me off of it, and I just don't want to get into that. And that has been a case in particular for video games too, where somebody is so hyped and so hyped up a game that by the time my critical eye gets to it, I'm like questioning the taste of other people, or I'm primed mentally to not like it, just to be a jerk and not agree with people. And certainly that is a part of why I don't play multiplayer first-person shooter games, is because I've heard people talk about Halo and how great it is for years and years and years, and only now that the Halo Master Chief Collection is going to come to PC, only now at this point when Halo really doesn't matter, am I willing to go and actually try Halo and see what it is all about, which really will be a odd retrospective of a series I've never played before, so I'll be looking at it as somebody new playing a very old game and seeing if it still stands up, which inevitably it probably won't. So it's not going to be a very fair review.
Right away.
There is this service called Letterboxd, which is just the word letterbox and then the letter D, where you can put reviews, and it's like a social, it's like a Facebook for people who review TV and movies. And I was doing that on a Facebook group, and then the Facebook group kind of died after a couple of years, and then I copied all the reviews I was posting on that Facebook group to my own personal Facebook account. So I'm thinking now, if I had the extra time, maybe I should just put that on a Letterboxd account and see how that goes. A lot of movies and a lot of reviews for movies can be like, it was good, it was bad. A lot of movies I wouldn't review because I would just fast forward through them and go and see, oh well, there's no scenes in here that look interesting. Like if I fast forward through a movie and it's just people sitting around the house talking for 2 hours, that's probably not a movie I want to watch. And I know that well enough to just say, it's not worth 2 hours. Because there's literally nothing a writer could write that would make me interested in watching something like that. Whereas there was this Japanese show that I don't remember the name of, where it's 12 like Japanese girls who know each other that are chained to a table, and one by one they are disappearing / getting murdered, and they have to like confess their crimes that they've done or figure out why they're chained to this table. And just that visual aspect of a show that was literally filmed in one set. It did 12 episodes all on this one set. All of it is just talking. The story is written very well. It probably is from a manga, so it's probably gotten some polish from being a manga or a light novel first. But because you put something visually interesting there, you made it a lot more interesting to me to want to actually watch that show. Whereas if it was just the exact same dialogue and they were just all sitting around the table talking to each other, it doesn't feel like there's any tension or danger there. Which you kind of have to work really hard if you're going to do a show that really should be a book. If it's all just going to be dialogue, you have to work really hard to put tension and danger around that. Otherwise, it's going to be really boring. And that was a live-action Japanese show, by the way, not an anime show. Let's see. Level by Level Gaming says, I love my retro games and new games done in retro style. That alienates me from the Call of Duty young gamer crowd. Yep, well. Yeah, I think it's probably never been a better time to exclusively play retro-looking games. But I think you're probably also missing out. There are 3D graphics games, modern 3D graphic games worth playing. I don't think many people are going to argue that you shouldn't play something like The Witcher 3 because it doesn't have retro graphics. But Call of Duty and the multiplayer first-person shooter things haven't really added anything to any of their series. It's always a very generic storyline. It's always just an incremental improvement in gameplay mechanics or in graphics. It's never anything that needs to be written home about, as it were. And personally, I will say retro games are driving me crazy on Steam because retro is half of the time an excuse for not being able to animate anything that looked nice. And I would like to see more variety in the artistic design of all games, because there really isn't enough variety there. Art is a very wide field that you can do a whole variety of animation techniques and styles, but only some of those have been adopted and easily used in things like Photoshop or 3D Blender or Unreal or Unity things. And so we get a lot of the exact same thing. A lot of things that just look like Roblox or Minecraft. A lot of things that look retro and pixel graphics but are brand new games and kind of suck. At least look like they suck as far as the gameplay mechanics. Like, Metroid 1 is not a good game because it has retro graphics. Metroid 1 is a good game because they went over the location of every item and the location of every enemy, and they really thought about how that game would play and tested it and tried to have a good experience there. There's a Mario Maker is kind of a great example. It's like, it's pretty easy to make a terrible Super Mario Brothers land, Super Mario Brothers game or level. There was more thought in that. The retro graphics of a bad Super Mario Maker level isn't going to save the fact that it's probably going to be incredibly difficult if it's a bad level, and ridiculously full of garbage and unnecessary elements. Let's see. Level by Level Gaming said, absolutely I agree. I love The Witcher 1 and 2 on PC. Yeah, I probably should. I think I have all the Witcher games on Steam, but I might be missing one because there's like a Witcher like tactical game, I think, if I'm recalling correctly. So there's I guess I probably should play Witcher 1 and Witcher 2. I think I'd do relatively quick speedruns through Witcher 1 and Witcher 2. I played, I think, The Witcher 2 on Xbox 360. And it's a pretty different game from The Witcher 3. I don't think I've ever played Witcher 1. And then that would give me like an excuse, I guess, to go back and play The Witcher 3 again and do the DLC. I still don't own The Witcher 3 on Steam, so that's a pain in the butt. Certainly, that I have this one game that's really important on Good Old Games because it came with my video card instead of on the platform I would like it to be on. And that was a purely exclusive decision on CD Projekt Red. Let's be honest, the Steam would have been more than willing to give them free keys to give away as giveaway, but they chose not to do it that way. Apparently no song is currently playing, and it has been for a while. Let me see if I can get that to work. There we go. I think I've probably played enough cards here, so even if I haven't, this is probably something I need to move on with anyway, so. I've got to kill something. So we've got a game on Steam here called Traffics, which looks like it is a traffic manipulation game. It looks very minimalistic, this game. There might be something to this, there might not. So it's controlling the traffic flow, which probably means it's just a tapper game, in for lack of a better term. And it doesn't seem like you're switching everything. So yeah, it seems like you'd be clicking, 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 stopping, stopping, stopping. don't know if there's much of a game here, though. This is $4.99. Bunch of languages supported. I'll put this on the follow list because there might be something to this, but it feels like you're doing something that isn't even someone's job, but is instead an automated process. And I know they adjust the automation on the timing on traffic lights, but certainly nobody sits there and clicks buttons to control those things. If the traffic lights are broken, it's a policeman's job to direct it if that's necessary. So yeah, I may have to come back and play some more priest cards, but I'm just going to switch over to the Asian account and let's do that Tavern Brawl. And traffics I'll put on the follow list to be really, really generous. Next we have a game on Steam here called Come Back Chapter 1, which has kind of a pencil sketch looking game. Looks like it might be a point and click adventure, although it seems to have a unique palette here, green and blues. Well, if this isn't too expensive and this is just a kind of point and click adventure, I'm a sucker for point and click adventures. Problem here, I would say, is a $4.99 game that's chapter 1. I don't believe that there probably are going to be another chapter. And then when you look at this article, 4 students create a distressing point-and-click adventure about domestic violence. I'm not sure I really want to play a game about domestic violence, but there's a couple. Yeah, certainly. This is a game that really just needs to be on the follow list, and if it's finished, if this team No Land Games actually has a finished product, which this isn't, instead of just chapter 1, I would consider it at that point, but I imagine 6 months from now they won't have chapter 2 even announced. Meanwhile, over here, I can't reroll any of this. We need to play priest cards and then win a game with a druid or rogue. We have to win anyways, so let's play with the rogue. In theory, if I play as a rogue, then I could steal priest cards and play priest cards. In actuality, that probably will never happen. Yep. And yeah, we're doing the Tavern Brawl on a Monday, because now all streams will have one Tavern Brawl, now that they've finally fixed the problem of the Tavern Brawl only lasting 3 days, and now Tavern Brawls last 7 days minus 1 hour to reset to the next Tavern Brawl. So every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday stream now we'll do one Tavern Brawl, which will balance things out, but also probably mean that all streams are going to potentially be a little bit more frustrating, because Tavern Brawls tend to be this ridiculous category. Let's see here. Yeah. Play this coin, and play this. And then all your cards in this Tavern Brawl are going to get moved back into your deck, and you're going to draw new cards. So you want to get rid of chickens and these spells and these coins as much as possible every turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Detonation, which looks like an old CGA level palette of colors, where allegedly this color palette looks really good on a CRT television and just looks terrible on a computer monitor. But here's a retro color scheme that really nobody should have any love for at all. This does not look good. This looks awful. And yet, people make games that are allegedly brand new games to look like this for very little reason other than to say it's retro. So you have that retro tag and pixel graphics tag. Detonation here is 59 cents discounted, English only. This looks like it's an interesting game, and frankly I just want to gouge my eyes out after 5 minutes of playing this. Yeah, it looks like you're just avoiding patterns or controlling patterns of robots. Alright. Didn't play fast enough. Let's see. Gametsu has an article here. Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth Complete Edition is coming to Switch and PC on October 18th. I believe this might be updated though, because this was... Maybe this is a different Digimon game though. Like, one Digimon game was pushed out back to 2020. But I don't know which one it is. This one, I believe, is a bundle of old Vita games that came out in 2015. Yeah, that's... So this is a different game. It's questionable, certainly, whether Digimon can make a comeback to the West. It probably could get a few sales from nostalgic people who like Digimon, although I don't know how many people really these days would still have nostalgia for Digimon over Pokemon and Pokemon Go, because there was so many opportunities in which there weren't Digimon games or Digimon anime shows on TV that you really would have had to either just gone without and pined for the loss of those shows, or you would have had to moved on to Pokemon, which was consistently coming out. I don't believe there's ever been even one season where there wasn't a Pokemon cartoon out, and there really hasn't been 1 year in which there isn't some kind of Pokemon game you can play. So yeah, it's hard to give up, which is effectively what I think Digimon did, and then try and come back. But I wouldn't be upset with playing a Digimon game if it's on PC. It would probably be a little bit easier, and let's face it, we know that there aren't ever going to be any Nintendo games on PC, not anytime in the next decade, I'm sure. So if I could just play Digimon, that would be perfectly fine. Although that probably is a kid-friendly RPG series that I would want to get through relatively quickly. I wouldn't want to spend too much time on it. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. One Punch Man, a hero nobody knows, is adding Vaccine Man, Mosquito Girl, Carnage, Kabuto, and Deep Sea King. These are all increasingly strong enemies that One Punch Man runs up against, and usually they fight somebody else and defeat somebody else very easily to just show how strong they are, and then One Punch Man punches them with one punch and kills them. I don't recall seeing Vaccine Man or Mosquito Girl actually in the first season, so these might be characters from the second season of One Punch Man, which I believe the second season was animated by a different company and drastically decreased its in quality visually. But yeah, this is just a fighting game with One Punch Man. Again, a little weird to have a character that his one gimmick is the fact that he defeats all enemies in one punch, and have that character
Here we go.
fight against all the enemies that he defeated canonically with one punch, then feel like they can actually defeat that main guy. So yeah, I don't know how you fix something like that, particularly in the case of One Punch Man. The whole gag of it is that he's way overpowered. So I don't know. You basically should, in a One Punch Man game, and I don't know how you do this, is you have the final boss be One Punch Man, and you have the final fight require you to dodge being punched at all through the entire fight. That would, I guess, make some sense. That's not gonna probably help me much, but whatever.
My remedies are all natural.
Let's go ahead and end this.
Here we go.
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam here called CLS, Signal Person. This is another one of these games where it's a low effort asset flip game, but it's also a game where you're doing some kind of person's job. And sure, maybe if this was a training material where you're learning the hand signals that you use on the yard to show people what you want done, that's fine. Although but this isn't really a game, this is more training material being sold as a game. It's $39.99 and seems to require VR. If not, then you'd be pushing buttons instead of actually moving your hands. And even if you are moving your hands, like, it probably would need the knuckles in particular, and it doesn't seem like it supports the knuckles. So this is an English only game for $40, no discount. It seems like it doesn't require VR because it doesn't have the red warning, but it seems also like you'd very much not be able to do much without the VR. And there's really no game here. Let's look at this developer. Yeah, they've got nothing else. Alright.
Too soon.
This. So yeah, that's not a game that should be on the follow list. Level by Level Gaming says, what rank do you hold in Hearthstone consistently? Not much consistently, really, because I'm playing on the 3 different accounts, the Americas, the European, and Asian accounts, and I don't play really any more than what you see, unless I say I'm going to play some off-screen. I might play a little bit off-screen today, but usually when I'm playing off-screen, I'm not playing ranked anyways. So they made some changes a couple months ago, and they made it a little bit easier, so I'm getting up to like rank 16 on my main account, on the Americas account. But I don't put a lot of attention to it, and I basically need to say this every recording now. My intention, unless I get major feedback saying don't do this, my intention is to abandon Hearthstone as soon as Second Dinner's card game comes out, which is the Marvel licensed card game. I'm going to get into that in the beta, and we're going to play that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, starting with the beta as much as possible, unless something just looks awful about that game. I was not in the beta of Hearthstone, and I feel like you've got 1/3 of the top tier players were all in the beta and have been playing Hearthstone as Twitch streamers for like 12 hours a day, 8 hours a day, every day. And I don't like Hearthstone enough. I barely like Hearthstone at this point. It's boring, it's dull, it's a slow game. It's not as bad as Magic the Gathering, and that's why I haven't moved over to Magic the Gathering. But there is this instance here where I would definitely want to see a starting over with the Marvel card game and being in the beta and getting all the cards. I'm also hoping that the Marvel card game isn't a pay-to-win scenario as much as other games have been. I can't really say Hearthstone is a major pay-to-win scenario, but there definitely are people who got in very early and bought a lot of packs and have complete collections of every card. And when you have a complete collection, it is so easy to then go to hsreplay.net and pick the deck that is winning the most and just play that. And there's a considerable amount of people who are doing that, including me, who are just picking the top meta deck and playing that way. So yeah, but even playing the top meta decks that I can play with the cards I have on my main account, which has more cards than anybody else, it's still a frustrating experience. Let's see. This time I'm just gonna play as Priest, because that'll work a little bit easier. But yeah, I'm not high. I'm not getting up to rank 1. I'm not getting up to rank 10. I'm not getting anywhere. And I've never gotten anywhere in it. And that's a little frustrating too, certainly. After several years, it's been, I think, probably 4 years at least of playing Hearthstone. You never really get any better with understanding how the cards play, or just anything like that. It's still a pretty random game, and so yeah, the fact that I'm not at a higher rank kind of sucks. It frankly would have been nice if once I got to a certain rank I could never fall below that certain rank, and maybe then there's dozens of ways you can spin things around and it really wouldn't change too much.
Job's done.
There's this constant balance, and probably with the Marvel card game it will be much more balanced into random games, and I personally would like to see it more like Yu-Gi-Oh games where you can win in 5 turns. If I could play a standard Hearthstone game in half the amount of time, it would be so much better. But the amount I would play certainly is getting forced by the amount of the daily quests. And so the daily quests bring me back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. In all honesty, I would not be streaming every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday if I could get away from it. I would do it once a week. We'd probably do it on like a Wednesday or maybe a Monday, whatever. And then that would just be the end of that. it would give me a lot more free time to make other recordings, which I'd like to do, and it would also let me curate the news a lot more, because there is usually a decent amount of games that come out on Steam that don't need to be mentioned at all, because I just show them off and I go, okay, this is the standard Steam garbage that comes out every week. It's nice to show that off every now and then and say, hey, yeah, there's still a ton of terrible games coming out on Steam, but there's some curation that could be happening there. But it's the 3 daily quests you get on Hearthstone that forces me to stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's the 3 daily quests on Hearthstone that forces me to stream for 3+ hours every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, when I would prefer the streams to be a lot shorter. I see really no reason that they have separate accounts anyways. If they tomorrow on Hearthstone said, we're just going to merge the Asian, European, and America's accounts together, and that would be great. That would triple the number of cards I have on one account. It would give me a ton of dust. It would fix a lot of problems pretty quickly. But they don't seem like they will do that. I don't think Hearthstone knows what they're doing. I think Activision Blizzard is on the verge of collapsing and going bankrupt, and all the talent at Blizzard in particular has left the ship, and Ben Brode is the creator, was the guy who was shown as the person in charge of Hearthstone. He left the ship and made Second Dinner. Second Dinner's got the contract for the Marvel game, so everything that was good about Hearthstone is probably going to be moved into the Marvel game. So unless the Marvel game is full of microtransactions, I think every Hearthstone fan probably should consider moving over. Now, if people say they love the way I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, maybe I would stick to Hearthstone. But I also have to take that with a grain of salt, a big grain of salt, because on an average stream I get like 3, maybe 4 views. So Hearthstone is not getting me views on YouTube, and a lot of that is YouTube's fault. Almost all of it's YouTube's fault, but nonetheless, that's the situation I am in. So if I move over to something else, that would be great. I suppose if I started playing the Marvel game and getting copyright claims like crazy, that would be stupid, very, very stupid of them to do. But at that point, I probably would very quickly rage quit and go back to Hearthstone.
Power takes many.
But as somebody who's been playing this game for 4 years plus, you're not getting treated very well as a legacy player in Hearthstone, and even new players aren't getting treated very well. It would be so easy if just all of the wild cards, all those sets were given to all players, period. That way you could say, hey, we don't care about these cards at all. You're only going to be able to play them in Wild. We don't care about Wild, so if you're a new player, here's 300 or 400 cards that you can play with and look at and learn the game before on the first 5 minutes of playing the game. Whereas last time I checked, when you try to make a new account on Hearthstone, you're looking at about 2 weeks of grinding before you can even start playing ranked legitimately, or even start to really to play like a normal player in general. Let's see. Level by Level Gaming says, I have never bought a pack and played since the opening day, and my highest rank is 2, very much pay to win. Yep. Yeah, and I assume that means level 2, not legendary rank 2. But there is also a different feeling. If I was playing something like Slay the Spire every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I could play that for a while, but after 6 months, I think people would have been bored even if I was playing that brand new. And you even see it in some of the other streamers. They're moving on to things like auto chess, and I have no desire to move on to auto chess. Let's see, level by level game says level 2, yeah. I think I could probably get up very high. I would say probably level 6, level 4, level 5. If I just gave up on having any kind of life and just played on my America's account and just played the top meta deck, which would be maybe like Secret Paladin or something like that. If I was just constantly spending 8 hours a day playing that would be, I think I could get up there. It's just not worth it. Yeah, I'm just constantly looking for different a different card game to play. I've been looking for a different card game to play for at least a couple of years, and it's hard to find something that is replayable enough and feels slightly better. Like, I've thought about playing Magic the Gathering Arena, but I'm fairly certain if I was to play Magic the Gathering Arena, every single game would take even longer. So I've thought about playing Gwent, but Gwent's not really a game that's interesting enough that you would want to cover it and play it.
Unity, precision.
There might be just a different style of game completely instead of the collectible card game to move on to. Because really all I'm doing is playing a game to half distract myself while talking about the video game news and all of that. So that's the main focus here, is to cover the video game news, and we not really had to cover much today. I'm not gonna win here.
Spectacular.
Just end the turn. Gamatsu has some news here. Yoyami Dreamer for Switch launches July 25th in Japan. This is a new Toho Project game coming to another platform. Apparently Toho Project is something. Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around what Toho Project means as a concept. It seems like they are kind of hardcore platformers, but let's see. This game first launched for the PlayStation 4 in 2017 in Japan. The 2D fixed screen action game stars Toho Project character Rumiya. I wish there was a video of the gameplay. So, I'm not sure if Yoyami Dreamer, though, would come to the Switch in the West. There are some PC games that are labeled Toho Project. I'm not sure if they actually are Toho Project games, though. So, there's some weirdness there. Speaking of weirdness, TechRaptor has an article. Konami says pulling Pro Evolution Soccer 2019 from PlayStation Plus was Sony's decision, which is, I mean, neither of these guys are the good guys here. Konami sucks and Sony sucks, so there's really not a side to side here. But I would say if this truly is Sony's decision to pull Pro Evolution Soccer in the middle of the women in the United States winning the Women's World Cup, which is, I believe, what happened, that was bad. Like, pulling it in the middle of the World Cup in general would have been a bad move. But then it's also understandable why they would have pulled it, because it's in the middle of this whole loot box controversy. And what they offered instead, being the Quantic Dream game, Detroit Become Human is by far a better offering for most people than Pro Evolution Soccer 2019. According to this article, Your Gamer believes the decision represents some sort of legal issue, possibly involving licensing rights. They're saying Konami's contract with Liverpool's football club ended 2 days before the game disappeared from PlayStation Plus. That's some speculation, certainly. I think it's probably nothing to do with that. I heard about this website that I don't know if I'm going to give the name for it, but apparently it's a website where you post yourself as a source for news articles or interviews, and journalists, quote unquote journalists, basically underpaid, underappreciated journalists, go to this website, find the sources for the article that they already want to run, instead of the old days saying, say, where a source would come to you and say, hey, I've got this story, you need to tell it. Instead, it's the journalist saying, I want to write this story because I want to push this narrative, so I need somebody who will agree with what I'm going to say. And that's not just underpaid, low-end like journalists who aren't on staff at newspapers and such. Like CNN does the same thing. Like CNN, Fox News, all of them do the same thing. They know exactly who they're going to bring on when they want to push a story, or at least do a little bit of yellow journalism to spin a story in the way they want it to go. You can't really argue that Don Lemon knows who he's going to bring on his show when he wants to talk about race, which is often barely related to the story that they start talking about. But apparently you can also manipulate this website and put yourself as a source to then promote yourself as if you're this famous person and gain fame that way. And that's an interesting, unethical way to go about your business. If I, as a video game journalist and a video game critic, put myself as a source about video games, would I start getting emails and contacts from actual people who want to write articles asking me to comment on certain things? Would I want that? No, absolutely not. Last thing I want to do is waste my time answering emails or responding to or dealing with any of that garbage, but that would be apparently something that might be something some people have done in the past. Let's see, let's go ahead and kill this guy. I think he's not a particularly safe character. It would be super easy, in my opinion, though, to get back to the Pro Evolution Soccer statement. It would be super easy to get rid of the football clubs where the license ended. And it's kind of crazy that you would sign a license that doesn't have a perpetual renewal agreement to it, but in these days, because that's exactly what everybody expects to happen, is that you will the games will get re-released and be very popular. Attack is equal to health. I wonder if that would be a good thing or
What
not.
was lost can be found again.
Interesting. Or if you really couldn't renew that license, it still would be pretty easy to just censor out that team. Level by level gaming said, okay, it's been fun. Talk to you later. Yeah. Thanks for commenting on the chat. I've stopped putting any messages in the chat because I think that may have been hurting my discoverability for some reason. It's stupid that as the creator of a live stream I can't put a hello message in the chat without fear of not being promoted, which I don't believe I was promoted. Let's see. I guess I was eventually. Eventually I got a notification out today. But there certainly have been days where notifications don't go out. There's a beta software called notify.me that requires you to make your own account, so I'm not sure I really want to deal with that. That would potentially be a backup notification service that is in beta to avoid dealing with the problems that happens on YouTube where you don't get notifications. I don't know exactly how that's going to work though. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article. Get a job. Sucker Punch, Cold Iron Studios, and more are hiring. So if you want to be a senior game server engineer for an N3T work, that's in LA, California. I've never heard of this company. They're a free-to-play iOS and Android game developer. If you want to be a QA manager at Sucker Punch Productions in Bellevue, Washington. I think I could potentially be a QA manager. I'm not probably qualified for what they're looking for, but that'd be interesting. Like I probably could do the job, and if you look at real qualifications versus the BS qualifications most jobs have, there might be. I think that might be something I could do. Not that I'm particularly looking for a new job.
Hush now.
Right. Sucker Punch Productions made Ghost of Tsushima, or is making. They're making Ghost of Tsushima. So if they're hiring a QA manager now, I guess that means that the game is almost out of alpha and going into beta because they need people to start doing QA on it, or they lost their QA person. We also have a job here for a senior world builder for Cold Iron Studios in San Jose, California, and the user interface artist for New Moon Production in LA, California. All those earthquakes in LA, you would think they would want to move some of those offices, but because California's been in a bit of a drought of earthquakes, so more than likely it's if you're just running the odds, it's likely that a lot more earthquakes are going to happen in the next relative span of time. One damage to everybody. And just play this anyways. There's also a community manager job at New World Interactive in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. That would be an interesting thought experiment if there was a just horrific earthquake that leveled all. Let's say it's a magical earthquake and it didn't kill anybody, but it leveled every single building and office in the IT style fields, including video game development and Google and such. Where do those offices get built the second time? Do they get built right where they are, or does everybody just get together and say, hey, you know what? It's a lot cheaper to build offices in the middle of the United States, in the forests of Alabama or something like that. I think, frankly, so much of why
My beautiful
why
creations.
so many offices are in LA has more to do with just snobbishness than anything else. I think LA people would not leave LA, even if their buildings were completely destroyed. I mean, they should be leaving LA now. It's far too expensive to live there. It's nice weather, and that's about it. But the parking's terrible. It's way too expensive. The taxes are way too high. There's tons of reasons to start a second office and leave, and yet it doesn't happen. So if there was some kind of magical earthquake or something that destroyed all the buildings and made them take a breath and think about things and go, actually our headquarters should be somewhere else, I don't think they would choose that. Where at least Amazon, if I can say something nice about probably one of the worst companies ever, at least Amazon.com is kind of getting that somewhat, and making a second office in New York, I believe, in Florida. So they're still very much going to the coastal cities. And then I guess if it was not a magic earthquake and it killed all the people that were working at video game companies, how would the video game industry recover from that? I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of recovered pretty easily. There's a lot of people, if they were given the opportunity through venture capitaling, venture funding, to start a new company and work for a new startup, could be video game developers, but simply are not getting those jobs because of cronyism. So if all the cronies went away, that would be the same. I guess the same is true for politics. If all the crony politicians were eliminated via a earthquake, the United States government, I think, could pretty easily elect a whole nother group of people. Probably not too much would change. The worst case scenario is if all judges disappeared. I try not to get demonetized here as how I say this, but yeah, if all elected judges disappeared real quick and all lawyers disappeared, so there weren't any lawyers to really replace the judges, that would be a nightmare, because then the law would not be understood or interpreted or enforced in any way that is similar to the way it is being enforced now, for better or worse.
Master of magics.
I'm getting off on a fantasy rant here. Let's move on. We have a game here called Exertus, which is a asset flip parkour game. These asset flip parkour games are getting better and better looking each time, but in general, all it is this is something some Unity developer made, and they've figured out a way to put skins over it. And in the end, this is just a 3D infinite runner, and there's not going to be any story or any real game to play here. And that looks good. It's early access, $2.54, discounted, lots of languages, 18 achievements. It looks really good, but I know for a fact it's just an asset flip game. I know that's all it is, and thus Exertus is not making it to the follow list. Next we have a game on Steam here called Tank Battle Heroes, which clearly is a mobile game that has been ported to PC. It's not a game I'd want to play anyways, even if it wasn't a mobile port. It's early access, $9.99, and English only. Yep, nothing more needs to really be said about that game. That's the kind of game that would easily have been curated and just not mentioned at all. Gamatsu has an article here saying Earth Defense Force 5 is coming to PC on July 11th. The Sandlot developed third-person shooter will be released. Earth Defense Force is the giant bugs that you're fighting. The problem with Earth Defense Force, though, is that they've never really been great games or very well animated, and I'm still kind of just holding my breath and saying, hey, if this is good, I would play this series. But so far, every game I've seen of this has been buggy and mediocre at best. The concept of the fighting giant insects is an oddly underused concept in video games. And I'd like to see it actually improved upon. Yeah, there really should be more competition. Two or three giant bug games would not be a problem in the video game world. And frankly, for as many zombie games as there are out there, what's the big difference between a zombie game and an insect game? They don't even have to be big insects. You could have a humanoid form that you just skinned a little bit different, so it had an alien head or a insect head, and you really wouldn't have to change much otherwise as far as the wireform model. Perhaps there has been some feedback that says actually people are afraid of insects and insect games don't sell as well as zombie games. That would be quite comedic if it turns out that more people are willing to play a zombie game than they are to play an insect game. Yeah, I could see that though, totally. I have to deal with insects in real life. I've never had to actually deal with a zombie. And so that they are a legitimate concern. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Boom Boom Bovine, which looks like it's a simplistic, just arcade Asteroids clone, if I was to guess. Doesn't look like there's anything here that looks that interesting. I really can't think that anybody could make an arcade game, a classic arcade style game like Pac-Man, and it actually succeed. Boom Boom Bovine is $1.49 discounted, English only, and there's nothing here I want to see or deal with. Let's see.
My beautiful creation.
I don't have enough mana.
Just trying to play all these cards as much as possible.
Job's done.
Get rid of all of this. I'm not doing great on getting victories on the Tavern Brawl, and I have to get the Tavern Brawl done because by Wednesday this Tavern Brawl will roll over to the next Tavern Brawl. So Monday now becomes the most frustrating day with Tavern Brawls, because if I haven't gotten them done before then, they would all pile up on Monday. Although it may just be a case where every stream will be frustrating because I'll play off screen a lot to try and get these Tavern Brawl victories done. If I just stopped playing as the priest and playing priest cards, I probably could just play with a secret paladin and win, and I think that's what I need to do. Next we have a game here called Energy Hunter Boy, which looks like it's just a sandbox low effort game. It seems to have some terrain generation on it, but that's about the only thing that's even slightly interesting, and there's a ton of garbage on the screen as far as UI. It's $4.49 discounted, English only. I think it's pretty unimpressive by the looks of it. It seems like you're fighting things and destroying things to get resources, and then the resources let you build a bit of a base. But that's kind of it. So now that we have corrupted blood in each player's deck, so I'm hoping Corrupted Blood will somehow work with me and I'll actually win here. I don't see how that really is going to work though. My only hope is that... well, there's no hope. Okay. I've been dragging my feet so long that there's still a few things to talk about. I could play 4 more priest cards in some other ways, so let's focus on a druid or rogue victory. So let's try druid and see if we can get the Tavern Brawl victory too. Gamma Sutra has an article. There's a report that the struggling HQ Trivia developer cuts the workforce by 20%. Now, this would be 20% on top of the other percentage, large amounts of layoffs that happened a few months ago. So laying off 7 of its remaining 35 employees, according to this report. That's a lot. That's a lot of people to lay off in percentage wise, although not really a lot of people to lay off in general. HQ Trivia certainly was popular amongst at least Giant Bomb podcasters for a good 6 months to a year, and then quickly stopped talking about it and lost interest in it. So yeah. Also, I believe HQ Trivia either lost their CEO in like a drug overdose or something like that, or they lost their original main host for one reason or another, or both. I think maybe both those things happened. So losing your CEO, like, I don't think a company easily survives the death of a CEO any more than even anything else would. Although I've certainly worked at some jobs where not only would we have been very happy if the CEO died, the company would have been run a lot better. I don't think too many people at Activision or EA would spill too much tears if their CEO disappeared. Let's see. We've got an article here on Gamma Sutra. Why isn't Academia School Simulator selling as well as other games? I can tell you immediately, because most kids that are playing this game that would be playing simulator games don't want to simulate their experience, which would be in school, whereas Prison Simulator makes a lot more sense, because that's not an experience that most kids that would be playing that game would likely have already had, or arguably should ever have. Also, it's pretty obvious that the simulator games are now particularly out of fads, and there's no YouTubers or Twitch streamers playing these kind of simulator games. Of course, this whole blog really is just a advertisement for this game, Academia School Simulator, which I don't believe is from any developer worth mentioning, like the developer for Prison Architect, which was way successful, and very successful in part because YouTubers and Twitch streamers were playing it. But you've probably heard me say it many times. I don't want to do a game that's representing someone else's job. It's just not something that's interesting to me. Yeah, I'm getting the feeling you cannot win this game if you don't play Paladin on this Tavern Brawl. I'm getting the feeling that is your only option. TechRaptor has an interesting article here, caught my eye. 60 seconds remaster, 60 seconds re-atomized, blast onto Steam July 2019. So, what are you improving in this game to remaster it? Because 60 seconds was overhyped, quite frankly, and it wasn't that interesting. And when I finally got around to covering it 3 or 4 years after it came out, I still paid way too much for it because the price has always been way too high, and had very little fun with it. So I don't know how you fix this. There is a way to fix it, but it's by speeding up the game a lot and having a lot more variety. And I don't know if I really trust the developer to fix it, particularly since they released their sequel 60 Parsecs and nobody liked that either. So it seems like they just don't know how to make games that people like. And again, that's just a perfect example of a game that was overhyped and really didn't deserve
Take your medicine.
the coverage it got. I'm starting to run into a decent number of games that clearly I was getting. 4 or 5 years ago, I was just listening to Giant Bombcast all the time and getting spoon-fed recommendations for games that I should have been more critical of, and I should have gotten more reviews from more varied sites. But even in that, Giant Bomb, Kotaku, Polygon, they're all friends. They all talk to each other. They all say the exact same thing about games. So it's not until you realize you can't trust the mainstream video game media because their taste is not in line with my taste, at least. But until I got to that point, I have a lot of these fuzzy memories in the back of my head going, somebody told me this game was good. And then I realized, oh, the person that told me this game was good is actually a person that was probably paid to tell me this game was good.
I don't have enough money.
Desperately trying to get rid of all of these cards so I can play this, but I don't see how I'm going to be able to do that because it's just going to constantly add more cards. Let's see. The TechRaptor article goes, it continues, the 60 seconds remaster will feature a bunch of upgrades to the original game according to a news post. Starting with 4K support for those there with a big old fancy monitor, new sounds and art and unlockable visual content will let you spruce up the apocalypse. Players will also have brand new achievements they can unlock. Those won't be the only improvements though, it will also add a survival challenge for experienced player out there. The metagame is going to face some changes that will give the opportunity to escape the wasteland, and a new relationship system will have even more crazy interactions between the family members. Anyone who owns the original 60 Seconds by the launch date will get a copy of 60 Seconds Remaster for free. If you are keen on getting your hands on the upgraded version, you can go ahead and buy the original game right now on Steam for 99 cents. Which 60 seconds for 99 cents is the right price. It's a price that frankly should have been 4 or 5 years ago, and it hasn't been.
For the wilds. Job done.
So yeah, maybe if you're interested in 60 seconds, get it. And I guess I'm gonna get a free remastered version myself of it, so maybe I'll give it a 30-minute spotlight and say, since I only played 60 seconds maybe a month or two ago, like when this remaster comes out in well, geez, July 2019 would be very soon. When it comes out, I'll give it I might do just like a live to tape episode of a spotlight going, alright, let's try this out, let's play a game, let's see how this goes. Since it would be a brand new game, or a remaster of an old game that I could play since I already own it. So there might be some special footage I make there, but almost certainly I'm not gonna like it. I didn't like the first game. I didn't like the way it played. I didn't like the fact that it wasn't as varied. It felt like something that should have been a card game, like in the real world, more than something that should have been a PC game for the lack of variety.
The sky darkens, and your tale will end.
It's just...
Job's done.
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam here called Age of Omens. It is a low-effort RPG asset flip game. It's not going anywhere, certainly. Early access for $14.99, discounted, English only. Claims to have English full audio. But yeah, nothing here visually interesting at all. Maybe I'm clicking a little too fast there, but I've never really concerned myself with that, actually, before. So yeah, that's not making it to the fall list. We have like 2 games, and really only one of those games actually probably deserves to be on the fall list today, which is understandable. 4th of July weekend, there wasn't a lot of games that came out. Deal 5 damage, draw a card. This, and I've lost the game. Gamatsu has an article here. Ghost Parade launches in November. So this is a 2D side-scrolling adventure game. It'll be released for the PS4, Switch, and PC via Steam in November. I guess that's worldwide. This was a Netter Anime Expo game. I don't think I've heard anything about a game called Ghost Parade, and all we have is this one picture. And this is all just Anime Expo stuff, I think, for the rest of this. Give it some more health. Play this. Yeah, you cannot win because you just constantly get more cards.
Job's done.
Let's see. Gamatsu has an article here. NG is coming to the West for the PS4, Switch, Vita, and PC in this October. NG being another one of these Korean-style horror games. Let's see. It follows a previous game called Deathmark. We have a video to watch here.
Bear your soul to me.
There is a slight situation here where I will give a little bit more consideration to a Japanese developer making what looks like a horror asset flip game than I will any other developer. I think there's some earned reputation there because Japanese have been known for doing spooky Asian and spooky stories for a while, whereas if it's some Russian developer making a horror game, it often does look like it's an asset flip piece of garbage game, and it usually is an asset flip piece of garbage game. There probably is an argument to say that also I divide games by their country of target or country of origin, so there's a little bit of nationalism in the way games are developed, and I think that probably is the right divider, because there are certainly people that don't want to play any kind of Japanese game at all, weird Japanese games, unless they don't realize it's a Japanese game. Like, Nintendo games technically are all Japanese games, but nobody's going to tell you that Super Mario Brothers is anything but just a Nintendo game, not a Japanese game per se. It's not, Super Mario Bros. Is not going to have anime girls in it or anything like that. Let's see. I'm just going to play this in the hopes. This is my hope that they will get so interested in this that they will decide to see if they can trigger this successfully and let me win. Gamatsu has another article here. Cafe Enchante is coming to the West in 2020. This is, I think, a visual novel, if I was to guess. And of course, yeah, it's tagged visual novel. Of course, this is all from Anime Expo, so all of these games in particular are going to be of a more anime-centric game. A lot of these are just pictures that have been updated. Color X Malice Unlimited for Switch is coming westward in 2020. This is probably another visual novel. Yep, tagged visual novel. And there's really no accounting these days for the quality of something coming to the Switch as far as visual novel, because it could be mediocre or it could be great. I don't think we've gotten down to the point where absolutely terrible visual novels are making it to the Switch, but there really is no accounting for quality anymore. And see, if I was playing Priest right now, there might be something that I could have done. This is basically the exact same article. Color X Malice for Switch coming westward 2020. Just a different picture. Let's see, I have like 2 more things. And so I think this will probably be our last game for this stream, and I'm just gonna have to play stuff off screen because I'm gonna just start taking it easy, and frankly I'm gonna start games and stop playing in the hopes that they get bored and surrender. The old Hearthstone boredom tactic, which works way more than it should. Like, here's how you know Hearthstone is a slightly boring game, at the very least. If you can start any number of games, and people are more willing to concede to you than just beat you as you are away from the keyboard, that tells you that it takes way too long to win a game, and thus it's boring. Gamatsu has an article here, Fuga, subtitled Melodies of Steel. Nobody wants to hear Melodies of Steel. Has been delayed to early 2020. This looks like it's a kind of 2D RPG game. Okay, it's delayed though, so not really much to take from that. Oh, I did want to say, somehow, I must have tied my account into Borderlands.com. So, putting in the shift codes in the website does work. Which, in theory, means I could uninstall Borderlands 2 and Borderlands the pre-sequel and just redeem those directly to through the website. Which is super helpful for people. Doesn't really solve my problem though, because those games are installed on my backup hard drive, my secondary drive, whereas I need a bigger SSD to install bigger games and record footage to, and probably a slightly faster SSD would be nice. I don't think it's really necessary. Let's see this. Let's not do that. That was a mistake.
Arise, my champions!
Job's done.
We've got a game here on Steam called Escape from Chernobyl that is a point-and-click adventure game. It doesn't look terrible, though, so I think it deserves to be put on the follow list. It kind of gives me the feel that it might be a Russian troll game, but it might actually be a story. It looks like there's actual puzzles and gameplay here as a point-and-click adventure. It's discounted to $2.40. The Chernobyl miniseries on HBO or whatever channel it's on is pretty popular right now, so maybe that would give me a reason to play it. And 6 months to a year from now, if I was actually get it. But I'll put this on the follow list and see if we can get more reviews. It is English and Russian, and certainly that is a little scary, but whatever. And at that point, that leaves me out of any new news that I had open tabs for. So I'm going to back to my Twitter feed, and we'll see if we can see if there's anything that came out worth mentioning. Apparently today is National Video Game Day. I question the need or importance of something like that, frankly.
The sky and your tail.
Can't do anything with that. Let's see. There's an article. G2A's still being put in the news. Apparently they tried to pay or bribe for good press, which is no different than any other company, frankly, so I can't really hold them too bad. It's just really, do you get more clicks by taking that bribe and writing good press about GTA, or do you expose that bribe that's offered all the times and accepted all the times? Otherwise, Devolver Digital is commenting on a according to PC Gamer. GTA offered pre-written advertorials, advertisements/editorials, with instructions to not disclose they were sponsored, which is technically illegal. Not really something that I think would get them much. So Devolver Digital, being snarky, says Devolver Digital will pay double the published pre-written advertorials about God of Robo and the Dark Souls. It's the Dark Souls of Metroidvanias. So they even have the title ready. Let's see. Yeah, GTA's not really a company you probably want to do business with. But also, if you're just, as a consumer, trying to get the best deal, it might be the best deal. It's really the question, do you want to go into that pawn shop that's dirty and dark and probably selling at least some stolen items? Like, I know that there was a scam I heard about once where people would buy stuff that had been in a fire and then sold it, I think, as new when they couldn't sell it as new, or they had applied to the insurance company saying it was destroyed in the fire and then sold it anyways, or they just in some way not paid taxes too. And apparently they eventually got caught for doing that. But up until that point, they got a couple years of decent sales. Inherently doing any of that kind of stuff is dangerous as the seller. As the buyer, going into a pawn shop and buying something that very possibly was stolen, it's not really your problem. I swear. Can't cast a secret from my deck because I don't have a secret.
Time waits for no one. Job's done.
Yeah, and looking at my Twitter feed, that's it. Interesting, Susan Wojcicki, who is the CEO of YouTube, retweeted Sundar Pichai, who is who is like the CEO of Google in general. Something about Code with Google helps more students learn the code, which, if you use the phrase hashtag learn the code on Twitter, may get you banned. So be careful there. What's funny here, from my perspective, is on Susan Wojcicki's public Twitter that she tweets out, this is the first instance I've ever seen her retweet any of her bosses or fellow contemporary employees. The impression that is out there is that the people in charge of different departments and divisions of Google are not working well together. But that could just be, baseless speculation. Right. The only other article we had here is TechRaptor has an article. Turok ARPG and Voltron strategy games have been announced for some reason. So this looks like a Turok. Although, why is it an augmented reality? Well, is it an augmented reality RPG, or is it an Asian or an asymmetric RPG? I don't know what ARPG stands for, frankly. And a Voltron strategy guide. Yeah, I don't know why you'd make a Voltron game. So Turok escaped from Lost Valley and Voltron cubes of Ukarian. They're both going to be published by Universal Studios Interactive Entertainment. I don't know why Turok would own would be a Universal Studios product. According to TechRaptor, both of these games were born from the Universal Game Dev Challenge presented by Unity. You're gonna really let me? No idea. Like, I have no idea how to win any of this. This is just wasting cards.
Job's done.
This guy's just dragging this on forever. Alright, so here's Turok Escape from the Lost Valley trailer. I don't really trust Universal getting into the video game market. That being said, this looks pretty cute. And maybe this is the way Turok in particular should have gone. Yeah. Because the remasters and re-releases of the old Turok games, I mean, they did their thing, but they certainly didn't cause people to want a new Turok game. A dinosaur hunting game would work. And this screenshot here looks like some kind of weird Tetris battle game. Let's see. The other 4 titles that were finalists was Back to the Future, Back to the Future 4, Time Anomalies, Battlestar Galactica Deception, and Turok Legacy of Stones. So there must be some new hotshot in Universal that said, hey, let's have this game dev jam and see if we can get some ideas for some games. But otherwise, that is all the news there is to say. And so I think pretty quickly here, I'm going to have to just concede, because this game is going on forever, and I've got 40 cards now. He's got 47. However this Tavern Brawl works, it's a nightmare scenario as the game goes on. I'm looking for Corrupted Blood to potentially succeed in some way, but I don't think it will. Yeah, I'm looking at the Humble Bundle here. There's no new game bundle, just the PlayStation bundle. Guess I could reload just to be certain. Nope, no new bundle. And nothing new on Twitter, so we're still in that point where we are having our 4th of July weekend. So if this guy isn't going to kill me in this turn, there's nothing we can do. There's been literally nothing we could have done. Like, feels like an hour ago. You play a secret. Play another secret. You have a 1 in 50 chance of this. This guy's just been dragging this out, so I'm just gonna concede.
I concede.
I don't know why people are even dragging it out. It's ridiculous. So here's where we are. We needed 2 daily quests done on the agent account, and we didn't get that done. So I need to play more priest cards off screen, and I need to get the Tavern Brawl done, because the Tavern Brawl ends in 2 days, which means by the time we stream Wednesday, it'll be a different Tavern Brawl. That's going to be it for the stream. I've got some extra work also on the European account I believe I need to do. It's not been a great one. This is exactly what I meant as far as stretching out and lengthening the misery as far as playing a different Tavern Brawl game. If you get a good Tavern Brawl, then the week will be good, but more often than not, the Tavern Brawls are awful. That's going to be it for this stream though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to further follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to try and get notifications, you have to click the bell and then click the options on the bell to get all notifications. And remember, the Steam Summer Sale still has a couple days, so you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist to help support my channel, or gift me a gift card. That's very helpful too. Or if you want to support me on a monthly basis, which would be very much appreciated, there's a link down to Patreon. And one of these days, once I get some Patreon actually subscribers, I'll redo the Patreon so it actually is much better. That's it for this recording. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.